Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a great day today. Today is Tuesday, and I hope something else happens to you amazing later on this Tuesday, because you are amazing. 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 And I got thinking this morning, I was talking to my mom the other day, and I was up at her house, and she got me cracking up because she was telling me stories. And one of the stories that she told me got me thinking about nature versus nurture. Now, a lot of you guys know, and most of you know that I'm adopted. I was adopted at birth, and or a couple of months old, and grew up here with my parents and stuff. And so it got me thinking about nature versus nurture. And there are a lot of things in life that, as we grow up, that are just in you because your genetics are put together the way they're put together. Some things that will align you and make you like your parents because you share their genetic code. And I know this to be true because I've since met my birth mother and spent some time with her and know that there's some things that are like her that are like me. But there are tons of things that are like my parents that raised me that are just nurture. They can't have passed them on to me, genetically, but they are just from spending time with people, and I call it life on life. And I was thinking about my dad, and my mom got to tell me this story about my dad when the old Schenectady train station in downtown Schenectady, I think it was like on Erie Boulevard now, I think it's where the current one is now. When he was building our house, they bought some land out in the woods, and my dad, over 6 summers or so, was building our house little bit by little, on his time off from school. And then when I was like 8 or so, we moved in there, but while he was building our house, on the front of our house, there's a brick on the front and wood, and then we have a chimney and for our fireplace and all these other things. And my mom got to tell me how my dad, when he was building the house and looking for a brick, they were tearing down the old Schenectady train station. So my dad had this old rickety trailer that he built on an axle, a 4x4 or something, out of plywood and tires, and he used to hook it up to his old Duster and drive it up to do whatever he had to do. So he was looking for brick for the house. So what he did is he hooked up his trailer, drove it over to the old Schenectady train station, and started loading up loads of brick and taking it back to our house so he could build the front of the house and build our chimney for our fireplace. And so he did that for a few loads and stuff. And then one day he's in there at the old train station and he's loading up his trailer, and the cops pull up. And they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What? I'm getting bricks." And he's like, "Nobody's used them." And the cop's like, "Well, you can't just take those, And so he already had a really full, trailer full of bricks. And he's like, "Oh, sorry." And the police officer said, "Well, take those, but don't come back anymore and take any more bricks." So my dad said, okay. He went home, and he had enough bricks to build the front of the house and the chimney and all these other things. So fast forward, 16 years later or so, or whatever, and I'm a teenager, new driver, and I'm looking to make some extra money. And so I get the idea to sell railroad ties, which I think was the suggestion from my dad, to sell railroad ties for landscaping. So I had this old truck that my dad, gave me, and I would pull up into the train yard, and I would go and look. Oh, look, there's some old railroad ties there. Those don't look so worn. I would go load those railroad ties up and put them in my back of my truck, and they were so heavy that half the time my truck was popping a wheelie. And I would put an ad in the paper, and I would sell them. And so I had a little business going. I was making money. And so one day I pull into the train station, and I'm loading up my railroad ties, getting ready to do my next delivery, and the cops pull in. And the cops pull in, and they say, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm getting railroad ties." And they're like, "Well, you can't just take those." And I go, "Well, I'm just taking the old ones." And this is the nurture. This is from spending life on life with my dad. And they said, "Well, you can't just take them." I said, "Oh, I'm only taking the old ones." And they said, "Well, you can't just take them. Take the ones that you have, but don't come back anymore. And that was the end of that business. But I thought it was just interesting how these tendencies and practices that come and become a part of your life are more nurture than they are nature, and it just comes from spending life on life with other people. So I hope that helps you. It's just a funny story. You know, as you're going through life, you have things that you'll show up in your personality and who you are. Some of them are nature, some of them are nurture from spending life on life with people. Have a great day. Max out all you do. Peace. Sorry this is so long.